Hi, this is Mike Kent. I'm a professor in computer information technology at San Jacinto College on the Central Campus, Pasadena, Texas. I want to talk about a lab assignment I have my students do to create a database in my class ITSC 1309 Integrated Software Applications 1. In this database for the employee corporation, we're going to store information about the people that work for this mythical company. We're going to store employee ID, first and last name, the salary, how much I'm paying them, the department they work in, the date they were hired, are they married, yes or no, and what's their gender. Now, creating a database is a two-step process. Let's talk about that. First step is design the table that's going to hold the information. That's kind of like filling out a grocery list of items that are going to be stored in it. We can't actually type people into the database until we've designed it. Now once we've got it designed, then you're just going to type in the data. So let's go into Microsoft Access and create a new table. So right now I'm in the opening screen with no database. Access is saying, what do you want to do? Create a blank database, and it's given it a default name, which is Database 1. Well, for this lab, we want to call it Acme Corporation. And I'm not going to store it in documents, I'm going to store it on the desktop. So let me scroll up here and change it to the desktop, Acme Corporation, OK. Now I'm going to hit Create. Now when I hit Create, you can see I've done this before. I was practicing before I made this video. It creates a blank database and it puts a placeholder table in it. In this case it's called Table 1 that just has one field called ID. This is the data sheet view. This is where I would be entering data. This is not the design screen. So I'm actually going to come over here and hit this X and close that. And since I haven't actually saved the table, now you can see there's no objects. There's no tables in my database. So I want to go to Create Table. And right here I'm going to hit my drop down and change to Design View. And what do we want to call this table? Well, in my lab assignment, we call it Employee. So now we have the employee table inside the Acme Corporation database. Now by default, you see here it put a field in here called ID, and that's not what I want. The first field I want in my database is going to be Employee ID, and whenever you're creating a field name in Access, do not ever put a space bar in it. It causes all kinds of weird issues. It can cause bad problems. And we want the employee ID field. I don't want it to be an auto number field. I'm going to hit my drop down for data type, and I just want it to be a number field. Now, that's the first item in my grocery list, employee ID. And you see it's got this little key on it because that's going to be the primary key field. In other words, no two people are allowed to have the same employee ID, and that's how we're going to look up information for these employees. Now, the bottom half down here is all the settings I can set for the employee ID field. So I want the format of this field to be fixed, and this is all what I have on my lab assignment, and I want the decimal places to be 0 decimal places, because you can't be employee number 225.2. Now, you'll also notice that right now it says required no. I'm going to say yes, you have to type in an employee ID when you're typing data into this database. Now, I typed in the first field. The next field I want to have in my database is first name. Now, it's going to be a text field because we're going to type in names. So I'm going to, you see that all the different types of fields I can have. The default is text. If I come down here to the bottom, it says field size 255. Well, I don't want it to be 255 characters long for the first name. I'm going to allow for 15 characters in the first name field. You can't type in any more than that. And also, I'm going to go down to required again and change it to yes. Okay, so that's the second field in my table. Now I want last name. It's going to be text. Once again, the default for text was 255, but I want it to be 15. And required for it is yes. So when somebody's typing data into this database, since I said required yes for all three of these fields, they cannot leave that field blank. So let's go on to the fourth field. That's going to be salary, if I can spell right here. And salary is going to be a currency field because we're going to put dollars and cents in it. And the decimal place is not going to be auto. We're going to make it 2 just for dollars and cents. And continuing on, I'm just going through my laundry list. Like I said, we've got the department. That's the name of the field. It's going to be a text field. And the department field is going to be short in size. It's only going to be 5 characters long. Next field is hire date. And it's going to be a date time field. And I'm going to make the format for the date time field to be a medium date, just so it doesn't take up quite so much space when somebody's typing something into the database. 2 more fields. Married. That's going to be a yes/no field, and it's not going to be required. And then the last field I'm going to have is gender, and it's going to be a text field. It's only going to be size 1 because the user's either going to type in an M for male or F for female, and I will make that required, so I'm going to say yes. Okay, now I have created all the fields I want to have in this table. I've designated my primary key. You can see the little key symbol there. If you don't have a primary key there, you hit the primary key button on the field you want. Now I need to save my table design. So I go up here to the little floppy disk save button, and I've saved my changes. And if I close the employee table out of design window, now you just see it right here. Now if I double click on it right here, it's going to open it up in the table view, which they call the data sheet view. You can also switch between the two by going this drop down right here. You can see I've got data sheet view and I've got design view. I want to be in data sheet view. Now that I've designed the table, it's time to start entering some people in. So you just start typing. First employee is going to be employee number 101, and that's first name is Billy, last name is Bob. He makes $32,000 a year. He works in the transportation department. I hired him on 12 of December 1999, and he is not married, so I'm going to leave that unchecked. And then right here for gender, Billy Bob is male. Now, if I press enter or hit the down arrow, now I can enter the second record. Okay, and you just keep going one after another until you've gotten all the data typed in. Now I want to show you something. I'm going to come up here to the X in the upper corner and close access, and it's not going to ask me to save, because when I hit the save button to save the table, it wrote that to the hard drive. It wrote it to the desktop. Remember, I saved my database on the desktop? So when I close it right now, it doesn't ask me for anything, but there's my Acme database, Acme Corporation. If I open this back up, I'm going to say yes, enable content. If I double click on employee, you see Billy Bob's still there. So because databases can hold so much information, it saves each record as you type it. So only when you're modifying the design of the table, when you're adding a second table, when you're creating a form, when you're creating a query, or you do something like that, that's the points where it's going to ask you to save. Or if you go to close it without saving, it's going to warn you. But when you're just typing data in, every time you finish a record and go on to the next record, it saves it. So we don't have to worry about that part. So to save some time here, I just went ahead and typed into the rest of the records for the table as are listed on the bottom of the lab assignment. So it's a two-step process. First, you have to create the table. Then the second step is to type in all the data. Now once again, once that's all typed in, if I hit close, that's already saved. Now, your database might look a little different. I've got my table window floating right here. If I have it maximized, the minimize and the restore and the close for it are up here instead of down here. I'm going to close it again. Now you can see right here, there is my database. So if I need to put this on my memory stick or put it somewhere else, now that I'm out of access, I can move the whole thing. Now, if you need a little more practice on this, in our textbook on pages AC 50 through 96, it takes you through the steps of creating several tables and relationships between those tables and importing data from like a spreadsheet or a text file into it. So that's a good exercise if you need extra practice. But that's all I have for you here today.